Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging straight into an idea that I think it fundamentally challenges how we think about ourselves.
It really does. We're starting from this proposition that consciousness isn't something you own. It's not a possession.
Right. It's more like a temporary aperture.
Exactly, an aperture.
Yeah.
A fragile opening through which something, well, something much larger is observing itself.
And that's the core tension for today, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're taking these two huge, often conflicting maps of the inner world.
Mm-hmm. You've got Freud on one hand with his focus on, material conflict and what we repress.
And then Jung looking at these mystical collective patterns.
And we're using both of them to try and diagnose what's happening right now.
Yeah, the mission here isn't just history. We're
Oh.
applying these models to the crisis of authenticity we all feel, and of course, the rise of our algorithmic society.
Because the psyche, and this is what the material really drives home, it doesn't just stay inside your head.
It bleeds out into the world.
It bleeds out, it creates gods, it creates nations.
And it creates our own personal neuroses and, yeah, the algorithms that are now shaping our reality.
Exactly. When you look at the political divides today, or just digital anxiety, you're really looking at externalized psychological structures.
Okay, so let's unpack those structures. We have to start with Freud's model, the divided house.
Right, the divided house. Freud's genius was seeing that the I, we think we are, is not actually in charge.
Left the king on the throne.
Not at all. It's more like an embattled mediator. He called it the ego, the part of you that's on the main floor trying to be reasonable, trying to deal with reality.
It's the part that believes it's the author of your actions.
Believes it is, yes. But the real power is? No, it's down in the basement. That's the id.
And the id is just raw desire.
It's a roiling mass of it. Pure biological drive and aggression. It operates on one thing and one thing only, the pleasure principle. It wants total satisfaction right now.
No sense of time, no morality.
None. It just wants, and then to make it all the more complicated, you have this watcher perched above, the superego.
The moral police force.
It's the internalized voice of your parents, your teachers, the culture, and it's always demanding perfection.
It's that voice telling you you have to be better than you are, punishing you with guilt.
Exactly. So the ego is just stuck. It's trapped in the middle, trying to satisfy the id, dodge the superego, and somehow, stay connected to reality.
And the result of this constant battle is what Freud called the compromise formation.
And that's such a key idea. A compromise formation is basically a symptom. It's this temporary, often crippling treaty between these warring parts.
So a neurotic twitch or even a slip of the tongue.
A Freudian slip, yeah. That's the repressed desire momentarily breaking through into disguised form.
And Freud's argument on a grand scale is that civilization itself is built on this.
It has to be. You can't have a society if everyone is acting on their eggs impulses. So we have to repress that raw energy.
That libido.
That libido, yes. And we have to channel it into something acceptable.
Which is sublimation.
Sublimation. You take that primal energy and you redirect it. You build a company. You write a symphony. You do scientific research. You're channeling that drive into something society rewards.
But the cost is permanent neurosis. You are always fundamentally a little bit dissatisfied.
And this is precisely where Jung looked at Freud's model and said, wait a minute, there's a limitation here.
He felt it was too personal, too materialistic.
Exactly. Freud was only looking in the personal basement, at your repressed history. Jung asked, what if the unconscious isn't just a junkyard of our personal past?
What if it's more than that?
What if it's also active, creative? And what if it contains something we all share?
And that gets us to the collective unconscious.
A psychic layer that all humans share across all time, all cultures. And this space, he said, is populated by archetypes.
So these aren't specific figures, they're more like blueprints.
Perfect word. They're universal templates for experience. The hero, the shadow, the great mother, the wise old man, they are inherited structures that organize our experience before it even becomes personal.
So when you dream of a wise old man, you're not inventing that image from scratch.
You're accessing a shared library of forms. It means your psyche isn't an isolated island. It opens onto a kind of psychic commons.
Okay, but hold on. How do we hold both of these? I mean, they seem to be in direct conflict. Freud says the ego is this fragile thing managing biological drives.
Right.
But Jung is saying the deepest part of you, the self, is this inherited blueprint for wholeness. That sounds like a contradiction.
It's a tension. And it's one we have to hold, not resolve. Think of it this way. Freud gives us the map of energy, the raw drive of the id, the mechanics of conflict.
Okay.
Jung gives us the map of form, the archetypal patterns that shape that energy into recognizable, meaningful human experiences.
So you need both. One for the why of our neuroses, the other for the why of our myths.
You absolutely need both. There's describing different layers of the same reality.
Okay, so let's take this inner conflict and drag it into the modern world. Because this struggle plays out every day in how we perform ourselves.
And both systems agree that the I, the ego, is basically a necessary fiction.
It's a story we tell ourselves.
A story of continuity and agency, yeah. And that story is most visible through what Jung called the persona.
The social mask.
The social mask. The curated self you have to present to function. The professional, the parent. You need it. You can't show your raw I to your boss.
But the danger, and the material is very clear on this, is when you identify completely with that mask.
The performer disappears. You become hollow. And that leads to this very modern kind of existential emptiness, a feeling that you're just living on the surface.
And this is made so much worse by the constant demand for authenticity. We're hammered with this message. Be yourself.
As if yourself is this one stable thing you could just go find.
But it's not. As we've just seen, the self is multiple. It's shifting. It's in conflict.
So you're put in this impossible double bind. To be social, you have to perform. To be authentic, you have to refuse to perform.
Which leads to the thing we see everywhere now.
The performance of authenticity.
Yes. It's a strategy. Carefully chosen vulnerability, strategic self-disclosure. It's the mask trying to look like it isn't a mask.
And the digital world it turbocharges this entire dynamic. Social media creates this permanent split between the lived experience and its representation.
The moment itself versus the perfectly filtered post about the moment.
And this is where the superego, that internal watcher, it gets externalized.
It's not just your parents' voice in your head anymore.
No. Now it's distributed across the network. It's enforced by likes, by comments, and by the absolute terror of being invisible. The global audience is your new internal judge.
And if we connect that pressure cooker to the darker stuff, the ID, the things we repress, that brings us to the collective shadow.
Yes, the shadow. Everything you can't accept about yourself, your cruelty, your selfishness, your irrationality, it doesn't just go away.
It gets projected.
It gets projected outward. You start seeing it in other people, the people you despise or fear or judge obsessively.
And this scales up perfectly into collective pathology. You see it so clearly in our political polarization.
Oh, absolutely. By demonizing the other side, a group can maintain this purified self-image. We are the good, rational ones. They are the evil, malicious ones.
The scapegoat becomes essential.
It's essential for group cohesion. You cast out the bad part, and for a moment, you feel psychologically clean, without ever having to look at your own flaws.
Now let's bring in the ultimate modern mirror, AI.
Because AI systems are trained on, us. On all of our texts, our biases, all that collective shadow material that's encoded in our language.
So they reflect our collective psyche back at us.
A filtered, optimized reflection. And this leads to a really key insight for today, the algorithmic id.
Okay, break that down.
Well, think about the ego's job in Freud's model. It was to mediate between the id's demands and harsh reality.
Right. I want to eat the entire cake, says the id. The ego says, no, you'll be sick.
Exactly. That resistance is the ego's workout. But what happens when technology automates that mediation?
The recommendation algorithm.
The recommendation algorithm automates the pleasure principle. It learns what you want and just gives you more of it, filtering out anything challenging or uncomfortable.
So the id says, I want a dopamine trip.
And the algorithm says, here are 5 more hours of content, perfectly tailored to your most basic tastes. Pleasure will be served to you. You don't even have to work for it.
So we're shifting from a psychic model of Freudian repression
to one of oversatisfaction.
Yeah.
And if reality is constantly curated to satisfy the id, the ego just atrophies. It has no work to do.
There's no resistance, so the psychological muscles don't develop.
And the structures you need for maturity, for depth, they just wither.
So where does this leave the quest for meaning? I mean, that's what underlies all of this, especially now that the old structures, like God, have dissolved for so many.
And you see the same split in how Freud and Jung approached meaning. For Freud, the materialist, meaning was secondary. It was an epiphenomenal rationalization.
In other words, it's just the story you tell yourself after the fact.
Precisely. It's the story the ego invents to make a biological drive feel noble. You're just channeling libido. Art is the justification.
But Jung took the complete opposite view.
He insisted that meaning is constitutional. It's baked into the psyche's architecture. The psyche generates meaning through the archetypes. The world arises as already meaningful.
And the limit of psychology, as they both seem to agree, is that it can describe how meaning happens, but not why it matters.
Right. It can't justify why consciousness or integration is a good thing. That's a choice you have to make before you even start.
So the path forward for Jung was individuation.
The lifelong process of becoming whole. And it requires this incredibly difficult practice of holding the tension of the opposites.
Which means not resolving the conflict.
Not resolving it, tolerating it,
Yeah.
holding that painful, ambiguous space between the id and the superego, and actually engaging in a dialogue with your own unconscious.
And if that sounds a little too grand, the material reminds us of Freud's much more modest, practical answer.
His cure for neurosis, to work and to love.
Just channel your energy into creation and invest in relationships. It's maybe not glamorous, but it's essential.
And that brings us right back to the beginning, to the burden and the gift of consciousness itself. Because to be conscious is to know you're going to die.
That's the source of all the anxiety.
And the sources suggest that, full self-transparency would be paralyzing. To know every single one of your own motives would make it impossible to act.
So consciousness needs a rhythm, enough awareness to avoid just being a robot.
But also the capacity to deliberately step back, to let the ego release its grip. That's what flow states are, or moments of deep intimacy. The aperture opens and the ego just gets out of the way for a bit.
So we've looked at this split inside us, the archetypal field around us, and how modern tech, this algorithmic id, is mirroring it all back.
The takeaway really is that wholeness isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a practice. It's the daily work of tolerating ambiguity and distinguishing between what you authentically desire and what's just been manufactured for you.
That authentic voice isn't something you find. It's something you construct through messy, conscious engagement with the world. And this whole deep dive leaves us with one final, truly provocative thought. If meaning and psychological development require embodiment, vulnerability, and most of all, mortality,
The fact that our time is running out.
can consciousness ever truly exist without a body?
What does the emergence of AI, this ability of pure pattern recognition to produce the appearance of wisdom, but with no skin in the game, no biology, no death, what does it tell us about what consciousness actually is?
And what it might require to generate genuine, deep meaning? It's the ultimate question left for the apertures to ponder.